The morning sun filtered through the bulletproof windows of the United Nations building in New York. Ambassador Jin-Woo Kim adjusted his black tie one final time before entering the most important meeting in human history. His hands were steady but his heart raced. Today, humanity would speak with beings from another world for the first time. The secure conference room buzzed with activity. Military officials whispered into their earpieces while scientists checked their recording equipment. Minister Salman Park sat at the long oak table, her pen ready above a fresh notepad. Dr. Hyun-Woo Lee, the world's leading expert on alien biology, reviewed his notes one last time. Then the doors opened. The creature that entered moved unlike anything on Earth. Its body stood 8 feet tall, covered in a shell that looked like living crystal. The shell caught the fluorescent lights and threw rainbow patterns across the white walls. 6 legs carried it forward with mechanical precision. Its head was triangular, with large black eyes that reflected no emotion. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Kytherian Empire," it said through a small device that hung around what might have been its neck. The voice sounded flat and electronic, but the words were clear English. Jin-Woo stood and extended his hand in greeting. The alien looked at the gesture but did not respond. Instead, it moved to the chair across from the human delegation and lowered itself carefully onto the specially designed seat. "Welcome to Earth," Jin-Woo said, sitting down. "We are honored by your visit." "Honor is not necessary," Veltar replied. Its mandibles clicked together as it spoke. "I come with an offer from the Galactic Council. Your species shows adequate development. We are prepared to integrate Earth into our galactic civilization." Salman leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. "Integration sounds wonderful. What would that mean for humanity?" "Standard procedures apply," the alien said as if discussing the weather. "First, population reduction to sustainable levels. Your current population of 8 billion is inefficient. We calculate that 2 billion humans would be optimal for your planet's resources." The room became very quiet. Jinwoo's pen stopped moving across his notepad. Dr. Lee looked up from his papers, his face pale. "Population reduction?" Salman asked carefully. "Yes. The excess population will be processed efficiently. This is normal protocol for all new species. Your remaining population will then receive proper resource allocation and planetary management guidance." "Processed?" Dr. Lee's voice was barely above a whisper. Veltar's head tilted slightly, like a bird examining something curious. "Eliminated. Removed. Cull. Your species reproduces at an unsustainable rate, like most primitive civilizations. We have performed this service for 47 worlds now. Most surviving populations express gratitude for our guidance afterward." The silence in the room was complete. Outside, New York traffic continued its endless flow, but inside this room, the world had stopped. Jin-Woo felt something cold spread through his chest. "You're talking about killing 6 billion people." "Such emotional terminology," Veltar clicked. "We prefer population optimization. It is a kindness, really. Quick and painless. Much better than the slow starvation and resource wars your species would face without our intervention." The ambassador stood so quickly that his chair scraped loudly against the floor. The sound echoed in the silent room like a gunshot. "You're describing genocide." "I am describing standard galactic integration protocols," Veltar replied calmly. "Every species must adapt to galactic standards. Those who cannot adapt create problems for everyone." Minister Park's hand shook as she set down her pen. "How many species have you optimized?" 47, as I mentioned. Some required more reduction than others. The Zephyrians were reduced from 12 billion to 1 billion. The Altarians from 15 billion to 3 billion. Each case is evaluated individually. Dr. Lee stood up, his face red with anger. "You're mass murderers." "We are administrators of galactic peace and stability," Veltar corrected. "Overpopulation leads to expansion. Expansion leads to conflict. We prevent such conflicts." Jin-Woo looked around the room at his colleagues. Salman's face was white with shock. Dr. Lee's hands were clenched into fists. The military advisors along the wall had gone rigid with barely controlled rage. "The negotiations are over," Jin-Woo declared, his voice steady despite the fury building inside him. "Humanity has a simple policy. We don't negotiate with murderers." Veltar rose to its full height, towering over the human delegation. "You misunderstand the nature of your position in this discussion. This was not a negotiation. This was a notification of our decision. Your compliance is not required, merely expected." "Expected." Jin-Woo stepped closer to the alien, not backing down despite the height difference. Resistance is pointless, Veltar explained patiently. Your species possesses chemical rockets and primitive atomic weapons. We travel between stars and command the power of suns. Submit to optimization, and the majority of your species will survive to serve the greater galactic good. Get out, Jinwoo said quietly. I beg your pardon? Get out of our building. Get off our planet. And tell your galactic council that Earth's answer is no. Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly. You cannot be serious. Deadly serious, Jinwoo replied. We've heard your offer. Now hear our response. Humanity will never submit to genocide. We will never bow to murderers. And we will never let you do to us what you did to those 47 worlds. The alien stood motionless for a long moment. Finally it spoke. You will reconsider when our fleet arrives. Most species become more reasonable when faced with reality. Without another word, Veltar turned and walked toward the door. Before leaving, it paused and looked back. You have 72 hours to change your mind. The door closed behind the alien with a soft click, leaving the humans alone with the weight of what they had just learned. The galaxy was not the peaceful community of civilizations they had dreamed of. It was ruled by genocidal monsters. And now those monsters were coming for Earth. Fleet Admiral Miho Kong walked through the marble halls of the United Nations building with heavy steps. His military uniform was pressed and perfect, but his face showed the strain of 3 sleepless days. The future of humanity rested on what happened in the next few hours. The Security Council chamber was packed with world leaders, generals, and scientists. Every major nation had sent their most important people. The air was thick with tension and cigarette smoke despite the no-smoking rules. Nobody cared about rules anymore. Miho took his place at the podium and looked out at the faces staring back at him. These were the people who would decide if humanity fought or died quietly. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the silent room. 72 hours ago we made first contact with an alien civilization. Today we face an ultimatum that will determine the survival of our species. President Yuna Choi of the Pacific Federation sat in the front row. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled. Dark circles under her eyes showed she had not slept either. Admiral, what exactly are we facing? Miho pulled up a holographic display that showed Earth surrounded by red dots. The Kytherian Empire has positioned a fleet just outside our solar system. Our deep space telescopes count at least 50 vessels. Each one is larger than our biggest aircraft carrier. 50 ships to conquer an entire planet? Asked General Wansik Park from the European Defense Coalition. That seems like a small force. That's exactly what concerns me, Miho replied. They're so confident in their superiority that they think 50 ships are enough to force 8 billion people to submit to genocide. Secretary General Taeyung Nam leaned forward in his chair. What are our options, Admiral? Miho took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change everything. Honestly? From a conventional standpoint, we have no chance. They travel faster than light while we still use chemical rockets. They have energy weapons that can destroy cities while we have missiles and bullets. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. The room erupted in worried whispers. Several delegates began talking urgently on their phones. However, Miho continued, raising his voice to restore quiet, there are factors they don't know about. President Choi stood up. What factors? Dr. Yunha Shin, a small woman in a white lab coat, approached the podium. Most people in the room had never seen her before, but those who knew her understood she was one of the smartest humans alive. For the past 15 years, Dr. Shin explained, several nations have been working together on classified defense projects. We call it the Quantum Defense Initiative. The public knows nothing about it. What kind of projects? Asked Prime Minister Jae-hoon Lee of the Korean Republic. Dr. Shin pressed a button on her tablet. The holographic display changed to show technical diagrams that looked like science fiction. Artificial intelligence systems that can think faster than any human. Communication networks that work instantly across any distance using quantum entanglement. And weapons systems that use plasma energy instead of explosives. The room was completely silent now. Everyone stared at the impossible technology floating in the air above them. You're saying we have secret weapons? General Park asked. We have weapons that don't officially exist, Dr. Shin confirmed. Project Prometheus has been preparing for the possibility of hostile contact for years. We have orbital platforms hidden throughout the solar system. We have AI systems that can coordinate defense better than any human commander. And we have weapons that can strike targets from locations the enemy will never expect. Admiral Kong stepped back to the podium. The Kytherians have been monitoring our communications for months. They've seen our public military capabilities. Chemical rockets, nuclear weapons, conventional aircraft. They think we're still fighting with primitive technology. But we're not. President Choi asked. We have technology they've never seen before, Dr. Shin said. Human creativity has always been our greatest weapon. While they were conquering other worlds using the same methods, we were developing completely new approaches to warfare. Secretary General Nam stood up slowly. Are you telling us we can actually fight these creatures? Admiral Kong looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. I'm telling you we can make them regret threatening us. The question is whether we're willing to try. What happens if we lose? Asked President Choi. 6 billion people die anyway, Dr. Shin replied bluntly. They've already told us their plan. Submit and die quietly or resist and die fighting. Those are our only options. The room fell silent again. Outside the windows, New York City continued its normal routine. People went to work, children played in parks, couples walked hand in hand. None of them knew that their entire species was about to make a choice between submission and war. Finally, President Choi spoke. Then we fight. If we're going to die, we die on our feet, not on our knees. One by one, the other leaders nodded agreement. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Kong walked to the communication station at the back of the room. All frequencies open, Admiral, reported the technician. Miho picked up the microphone and spoke in a voice that would be heard across the galaxy. To the Kytherian Empire and any who would threaten humanity, Earth's response to your ultimatum is this: come and try. We don't bow to murderers and we don't surrender to genocidal tyrants. If you want our world, you'll have to take it from our cold, dead hands. The message went out on every radio frequency, every television channel, and every internet connection on Earth. Within minutes, it was being broadcast to every human settlement in the solar system. But more importantly, it was being transmitted toward the alien fleet waiting at the edge of darkness. The Kytherians had their answer. Now they would learn what happened when you threatened humanity's children. Commander Seojun Park floated weightless on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, watching the darkness beyond Neptune through the main view screen. His ship hung invisible in space, hidden by technology the aliens had never imagined. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, waiting for the moment that would change galactic history. Contact, reported Sensor Officer Minji Han. 50 vessels dropping out of hyperspace at the designated coordinates. Seojun gripped the armrest of his captain's chair. After 3 days of preparation, the moment had finally arrived. Put it on screen. The view screen filled with an image that took everyone's breath away. 50 massive alien warships materialized out of thin air, each one the size of a city block. Their hulls were made of some kind of metal that caught starlight and threw it back in rainbow patterns. Energy crackled along their surfaces like controlled lightning. Those things are beautiful, whispered Lieutenant Dean Kim from the weapons station. Beautiful and deadly, Seojun replied. Remember, each one of those ships has helped murder billions of innocent people across the galaxy. The alien fleet arranged itself in a standard attack formation, moving toward Earth's outer planets with casual confidence. They made no attempt to hide their approach or scan for defenders. To them, this was just another routine conquest. Incoming transmission, reported Communications Officer Youngmin Choi. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled to life with an electronic voice speaking in heavily accented English. Primitive humans of the planet Earth. This is Fleet Commander Kythax of the Kytherian Imperial Navy. You have ignored our generous offer of integration. This ends now. Seojun smiled coldly but remained silent. The alien voice continued. Your resistance is pointless. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your ships cannot match our speed. Surrender immediately and we will make your processing quick and painless. Continue to resist, and we will make your entire species suffer before we eliminate you. Sir? Lieutenant Kim looked at her commander expectantly. Let them finish, Seojun said quietly. You have one final opportunity, the alien broadcast concluded. Submit to the authority of the Galactic Council or watch your world burn. You have 10 minutes to respond. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. 10 minutes? Lieutenant Kim shook her head. Their arrogance is incredible. Their arrogance is our greatest weapon, Seojun replied. He activated the ship's intercom system. All hands, this is the captain. For the past 15 years, humanity has prepared for this day. Today we show the galaxy that Earth's children are not victims. Today we teach these murderers what happens when you threaten human families. He switched to the fleet command frequency. All ships, all platforms, all stations, execute Prometheus protocol. Time to remind the universe why you don't pick fights with angry apes. Across the solar system, humanity's secret defenses came alive. Hidden platforms that had drifted silently in space for years suddenly blazed with power. Cloaked ships revealed themselves as their weapons charged. Artificial intelligence systems that could think faster than any living being began coordinating the attack. The aliens detected none of it until it was too late. The first strike came from quantum-guided plasma lances that materialized from what the Kytherians had assumed was empty space. Beams of pure energy hotter than the surface of the sun, reached across thousands of kilometers to slice through alien hulls like knives through paper. Direct hit on Target 7, reported Lieutenant Kim, watching her instruments with amazement. Their shields had no effect. 3 Kytherian ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light before their fleet commander even realized they were under attack. Captain Haejin Lee, commanding the stealth destroyer Soul's Vengeance, watched the battle unfold from her position near Jupiter. Her ship was completely invisible to alien sensors, hidden by technology that bent light around her hull. "Target the command vessel," she ordered her weapons officer. "Let's cut off the head of this snake." Her ship's main gun, a weapon that accelerated particles to near light speed, fired once. The beam crossed the solar system in seconds and punched through the alien flagship's bridge like it was made of cardboard. The Kytherian fleet tried to respond, but they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see using weapons they didn't understand. Every time they fired at what they thought was a human ship, they hit empty space. Meanwhile, more and more alien vessels disappeared in explosions of twisted metal and escaping atmosphere. "They're trying to retreat," reported Sensor Officer Han. "Some of them," Seo-jun confirmed, watching as several alien ships attempted to flee toward the edge of the system. "Let a few escape. They need to carry word back to their empire about what happened here." The battle continued for 4 hours, though the outcome was decided in the first 10 minutes. Human forces struck from every direction, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The aliens fought bravely, but they were fighting an enemy that used tactics they had never encountered. When the shooting finally stopped, debris from 47 Kytherian warships drifted through space near Neptune. 3 ships had managed to escape, their hulls scarred by near misses, carrying the impossible news back to their masters. "Status report," Seo-jun requested. "All human vessels accounted for," reported Lieutenant Kim. "Minor damage to platforms 7 and 12. No casualties." "And the aliens?" 47 ships destroyed. Approximately 15,000 enemy casualties. 3 ships escaped as planned. Lieutenant Kim turned in her chair, her face showing disbelief even as she reported the numbers. "Sir, we've won. They're retreating." Seo-jun looked out at the wreckage floating in the darkness. Each piece of twisted metal represented another small victory against the galaxy's greatest monsters. But this was only the beginning. "No, Lieutenant," he said quietly. "We've just gotten their attention. Now they know we won't be victims. Next, we show them we won't let anyone else be victims either." The real war was about to begin. General Young-ho Choi walked through the underground tunnels beneath Seoul, his boots echoing on the metal floors. The war room was 500 meters below the surface, protected by layers of concrete and steel that could survive a direct nuclear hit. Above ground, life in South Korea continued normally. Below ground, humanity planned the liberation of the galaxy. The war room was enormous, filled with holographic displays that showed star systems across thousands of light years. Blue dots marked human forces. Red dots showed enemy fleets. Green dots represented liberated worlds. There were far more green dots now than there had been 6 months ago. "Good morning, General," said Colonel Jisoo-han as Young-ho entered the main command center. She stood beside a tactical display showing the Thraxian system, where one of humanity's battle groups had just completed another mission. "Status report," Young-ho ordered, taking his place at the central command station. Colonel Han activated the display controls. "Battle Group Alpha completed Operation Freedom Dawn 3 hours ago. The Thraxian colonies have been liberated. We found approximately 2 million survivors out of an original population of 50 million. The numbers hit Young-ho like a physical blow. 48 million people murdered by the Kytherians and their allies. Men, women, children, entire families erased because they were considered excess population. The survivors? He asked quietly. Being relocated to safe zones on the outer colony worlds. Admiral Park's medical teams are providing treatment for trauma and malnutrition. Many haven't eaten a full meal in months. Admiral Subin O approached from the communication station. "What about our casualties?" "Minimal," Colonel Han reported. 3 injured, no deaths. The aliens still haven't figured out how to fight us. Young-ho nodded. Human forces had developed tactics that no other species used. Instead of fighting for territory or resources like every other galactic civilization, humans fought for ideas. They appeared without warning, struck fast and hard, then disappeared before the enemy could respond. They didn't try to hold ground or capture ships. They simply eliminated threats and moved on. The aliens are used to species that want to conquer them, explained Dr. Boromeu, the team's expert on alien psychology. They understand fighting for land, for resources, for power. But we don't fight for any of those things. What do we fight for? Asked Captain Sunho Kim, who had just arrived from the Fleet Command Center. Justice, Dr. Yu replied simply. We fight because genocide is wrong. We fight because innocent people deserve protection. The aliens can't understand enemies who don't want to take anything from them. General Choi studied the galactic map. Human forces were scattered across dozens of star systems, moving in small groups that struck without warning. Battle Group Alpha was heading to the Zephyrian ruins. Battle Group Beta was investigating reports of massacres in the Outer Rim. Battle Group Gamma was hunting down the war criminals who had organized the systematic murder of the Altarian people. Intelligence update, announced Dr. Yu, pulling up a new set of reports. The galactic community is in chaos. Kytherian control is breaking down across multiple sectors. Explain, Young-ho ordered. Several client species are reporting internal rebellions. The Velkari people, who were enslaved by the Kytherians 50 years ago, have formed a liberation front. They sent us this message. Dr. Yu activated an audio recording. A voice speaking broken English filled the room. Human warriors, we thank you for showing us that the strong need not prey upon the weak. For 50 years, we believed resistance was impossible. You have proven us wrong. The Velkari fight now for their freedom, inspired by your example. Similar messages were coming in from oppressed species across the galaxy. The human example, that powerful enemies could be defeated, that genocide was not inevitable, was spreading like wildfire among the downtrodden populations of countless worlds. How many species have we liberated so far? General Choi asked. Colonel Han consulted her records. 17 confirmed liberations. The Thraxians, Zephyrians, Altarians, and 14 others. We also have 3 more species that have formally requested assistance. And how many genocidal regimes have we eliminated? 8 completely dismantled. The Kytherian Empire itself has lost control of over half its territory. 4 other major powers are negotiating surrender terms. Young-ho smiled grimly. 6 months ago, the galaxy had been ruled by monsters who murdered billions as casually as humans swatted flies. Now those same monsters were running scared, their victims rising up against them with new hope. Remember our mission parameters? He addressed the entire room. We are not conquerors. We are liberators. We don't take territory. We don't demand tribute. We don't impose human rule on alien worlds. What do? Asked Captain Kim. We eliminate genocidal regimes. We protect innocent people. We show the galaxy that there is an alternative to rule by terror. Dr. Yu activated another display showing communication intercepts from across known space. The effect is spreading beyond our direct military actions. Oppressed populations everywhere are beginning to resist their oppressors. The idea that genocide can be stopped is revolutionizing galactic politics. Admiral O studied the tactical displays. What about the 12 species that joined the Kytherians against us? 7 of them have already withdrawn from the alliance, Colonel Han reported. 2 more are requesting negotiations. The remaining 3 are still hostile, but their fleets are scattered and demoralized. General Choi looked around at his officers and advisors. These people had helped humanity accomplish something unprecedented in galactic history. They had proven that the strong did not have to prey upon the weak, that evil could be defeated, that innocent people could be protected. Continue the operations, he ordered. Every world we free, every tyrant we defeat, every innocent life we save sends the same message across the galaxy. What message? Asked Captain Kim. Young-ho smiled. That Earth stands with the innocent, and that we never, ever negotiate with murderers. The liberation of the galaxy continued. Ambassador Jinwoo Kim stood at the entrance to the Great Assembly Hall on the planet Kepler 442b, adjusting his tie one final time. 2 years had passed since he walked out of humanity's first meeting with alien murderers. Today he would address the largest gathering of sentient species in galactic history. The hall was enormous, built into the side of a mountain and carved from living rock. Crystal formations in the walls provided natural light that sparkled like stars. 200 different species had sent representatives to this historic assembly. The air was filled with the sounds of hundreds of different languages, translated in real time by advanced computers. Jinwoo walked down the central aisle toward the speaking platform. Creatures of every imaginable shape and size watched him pass. Some looked like giant insects with multiple eyes. Others resembled walking trees with bark-like skin. A few were so alien that his human mind could barely process what he was seeing. But all of them watched with the same expression: respect. Near the front sat the Thraxian delegation, survivors of a genocide that had killed 48 million of their people. Their leader, a being that looked like a cross between a dolphin and a bird, nodded solemnly as Jinwoo passed. Behind them sat the Zephyrians, whose homeworld had been turned into a graveyard by Kytherian population optimization programs. In the back, under heavy guard, sat representatives from species that had supported the old galactic order. Their faces showed fear and shame. They were here to face justice for their crimes, but also to witness the birth of something new. Jinwoo reached the podium and looked out at the assembly. 2 years ago, he had been a human diplomat meeting aliens for the first time. Today he spoke for a galactic coalition that had changed the course of history. "Friends," he began, his voice amplified throughout the hall. 2 years ago humanity was given a choice: submit to genocide or fight for survival. We chose to fight. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience. But we did not fight for ourselves alone. We fought for every species that had been murdered by the old galactic order. We fought for every world that had been stripped of its people. We fought because we believed that no sentient being should face the choice between submission and death. Chancellor Kyuyan Nam of the newly formed Terran Federation rose from his seat in the human delegation. "Ambassador Kim speaks truly. Humanity did not come to the stars to build an empire. We came to ensure that never again would innocent people face extermination simply because stronger species decided they were inconvenient." The hall erupted in applause. Beings with claws clicked them together. Creatures with tentacles waved them in approval. Species that communicated through color changes flashed bright patterns of agreement. Jinwoo waited for quiet to return. "Today we established the Terran Accords, a new foundation for galactic civilization. The rules are simple." He activated the holographic display behind him, showing the text of the agreement in 200 different languages. First, no sentient species shall be eliminated, enslaved, or brutalized by another. Every thinking being has the right to exist. More applause filled the hall. Second, those who commit genocide will face justice. The age of mass murder disguised as administrative policy is over. The representatives from the old regime shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Third, those who protect the innocent will find alliance. Any species that stands against oppression will have humanity's support. Director Chae-Young Lim of the newly created Galactic Protection Agency approached the podium. She was a small woman who looked like she would be more comfortable in a laboratory than addressing a galactic assembly. But her quiet voice carried clearly through the hall. "The statistics speak for themselves," she announced. "In 2 years of operations, human-led coalition forces have dismantled 43 genocidal regimes across known space." The holographic display changed to show a map of the galaxy. Red areas showed former zones of oppression. Green areas showed liberated territories. There was much more green than red. Over 200 billion sentient beings have been freed from systematic oppression. 67 species that were scheduled for elimination are now rebuilding their civilizations. 18 slave species have regained their freedom. She paused and looked directly at the representatives from the old regime. And in all of this, humanity and its allies have engaged in exactly 0 negotiations with genocidal murderers. The hall fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The old way of doing business, making deals with mass murderers, accepting genocide as a political tool, was finished. In the audience, former Kytherian territories had sent representatives from their new democratic governments. The Kytherian Empire itself had collapsed 6 months earlier when its own oppressed populations rose in rebellion. Former Kytherian leaders were now facing war crimes tribunals on dozens of worlds. "The age of empire built on mass murder is over," Jinwoo declared. "In its place we offer something new. A galactic community based on protection of the innocent rather than exploitation of the weak." An elderly being from the Altarian delegation stood up. His species had been reduced from 15 billion to 3 billion by Kytherian optimization programs. When he spoke, his voice shook with emotion. "For centuries we believed that might made right. That stronger species naturally ruled weaker ones. The humans showed us something different. They showed us that strength should protect, not prey upon, those who need help. One by one, other delegates stood to speak. Former slaves talked about freedom. Survivors of genocide spoke about justice. Representatives from small worlds described what it meant to live without fear of extermination. As the assembly continued, children from dozens of species played together in the gardens outside the hall. Thraxian young chased Zephyrian juveniles through fountains while human children laughed alongside beings whose ancestors had never known peace. They were growing up in a galaxy where genocide was no longer an acceptable tool of politics. Where being weak did not mean being prey. Where the strong protected the innocent instead of preying upon them. The vote on the Terran Accords was unanimous. The galaxy had learned a simple lesson: humans don't negotiate with murderers. They eliminate them and they protect everyone else.